Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is James Clark. So James, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Yeah, I'm James Clark. I'm the CEO of Room 214. We are located in Boulder, Colorado, headquartered there, but work remote. We are a company that focuses on growing and scaling e-commerce businesses. So, anything, most businesses are in the $3 to $10 million range.
Awesome. So how did you go about getting started doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, quite the journey. So I started out in the early 1990s, dating myself a bit here, in public relations. I ran, actually at 27, I was the CEO and partner of a high-tech public relations agency. It was an interesting time to be that. So as a 27-year-old, most of the people were older than me, and I'd sit in a room with a lot of clients who are far older than me, but certainly had a knack for it, just in terms of storytelling and talent. And then I sold that business and then started Room 214 with my then co-founder, who exited the company this year. But he and I were college roommates, and he had a web design agency. So this is kind of back in the day. And I was on the communications side. And we said, what if we put these two things together? So this is 20 years ago. And we built a communications agency that was able to post things on the web for you, like build blogs, build websites, that kind of stuff. And that, essentially we were in the right place at the right time. So I wrote a white paper back in the day that generated a lot of visibility for me, called Fire Your PR Firm. And then I actually went to PR firms and told them why they potentially have a danger in their future because of the internet. Like, searches, we defined it as search engines are media today, and those who rank highest have the biggest authority. So, and then from there, I would say the business hasn't been the same for 20 years. As you can imagine, in digital, everything changes, and it's been quite the journey and different experiences along the way.
Great. So what's the technology role in your business?
So from technology, we take a look at how do we leverage the best technology available to us. Right now, we work with a lot of companies, and the majority of them are coming to us and they're built on Shopify. Now, I'm not saying that is the right way to go, but what we find is, scaling a business on Shopify is relatively difficult. For instance, we just talked with a potential customer, and they had over 70 third-party apps running on their Shopify site, and the person was new to the role in marketing and couldn't figure out which one was triggering the abandoned cart emails. So in a way, like we come in from a mentality of like, we have an opinionated approach to the technology and the technology stack. And then we leverage that opinionated approach to drive down costs and manage costs, because tech, the idea of SaaS, I think there's a little movement coming around. It's, this idea of like, hey, we scale when you scale. I mean, when those margins across the board, I think there's a reckoning coming in SaaS businesses who operate like that. And we look for opportunities to, when we're able to scale a business, all of their technology expenses don't scale with their revenue. So there's efficiencies that are associated with it. And that applies to all kinds of third-party apps in different technology platforms that are part of our opinionated stack.
Great. So what do you think, what are the benefits to investing in technology for your business?
Well, one would be, if you're investing in the technology, you have a level of freedom that I believe is not quite associated in an entrepreneur's mind as of yet. So we talk about this quite frequently. I mean, if you're on Shopify, you're owned by Shopify. You don't have the flexibility. And by the way, I'm not hammering on Shopify. We love it, we use it. But when companies are actually looking to scale and maybe looking for an exit, and they're looking for a value proposition that remains their own, they have to understand that there is a portion of their business that remains subservient to the technology platforms. And so, that idea, that mentality around technology. So we'll hook up with a client if they're young and they're in the $1 to $3 million range and they're trying to scale. And we can stay in that Shopify environment and do really well for them. If they're looking at that 10 million and they're trying to go to 50, let's say, now their scaling becomes exponential and it becomes detrimental to the future valuation of the company. When you're able to own your technology, per se, and then own your customers also. I mean, these are kind of the two things we like to talk about. As we all know, the cookieless world is flying at us. And the combination of those two things are really going to generate a tremendous amount of exponential value in an organization.
Yeah, so that's something good. In fact, and I'm talking more about technology because I'm the tech guy. So,
of course.
So yeah, I know about technology, so that's why I talk a lot about technology. So when you are using anything for your business, the major thing is tracking. So if you are using technology and you think like technology has a good role and it can give a good value to your business, then do you have some metrics to track the effectiveness of your technology? Like, how do you track the effectiveness of the technology at work?
From a technology perspective, it's a matter of ease of use and investment into it. So we do track our time against a particular project. So, are we able to make a request, build this quickly, execute against that? But a majority of it, we really take a larger view. We kind of pull back a little bit and consider technology as part of the overall cost of running the business. So we take a look at, what are the costs of running the business? How are you going to grow and scale it? And this is interesting. So what we take a look at is that a lot of companies need to know around, because we're focused on growth. And what happens with growth is more problems, right? But more opportunities that are combined with both of those. And so if your technology expenses are growing exponentially with your growth, you have an issue involved in the organization. And typically what we like to see is those technology expenses become highly efficient, flatten out, not to say that they won't go up over time, where, you need those margins in the business. You need those gross margins, from your product to reinvest into the company. And then, like, let's say, invest in technology that we think is really customer driven. So let's take a look at technology that it better relates to and connects to the customer versus, versus just another stack on another stack. And a lot of that, that ideation around like how do we measure it? It still all comes down into profitability of the overall business. And we take a look at, there's a line item when we work with our clients. What's our tech expenditure? And we actually have a program where we'll cover the tech costs, because, and one of the reasons is when we take a look at a company, for instance, this prospect I was just talking with, they clearly don't know how to manage their technology. When we go into the inside, so we go, listen, we're going to take this burden off you and we're just going to manage this. And now, like, if it becomes so it puts our skin in the game, really. And it's like, if our skin's in the game, we want to drive margins, but we want to do it in a way that also drives interest, drives revenue. So it's not a hindrance to the overall organization. So our view is like, that thing needs to work for us and not against us. And that, that's that beauty of technology.
Awesome. So in terms of working for you, so are you utilizing AI today for your clients?
Absolutely, 100%. And we use it on a couple different levels. And so one of our approaches, one of our methodologies is we call it the coherence method. But we reach out and we do customer interviews. So we'll interview our customer, and we'll capture those interviews. And so we'll record them, we'll have transcriptions, and we capture all that data. So, and we create a specific repository of all that content that is unique to our own customer. And so we use like certain connective tissues like ZBrain to be able to connect into Google Docs to be able to then train the AI to look at our content, not just content in general from a prompt writing perspective. So we use it from the standpoint of, hey, we would like to, pull customer quiz, pull push holes, and we train it in specifically on how we look at it, which then kind of puts a repository available to the entire team, so that we know that we're not using any kind of data that's not allocated or falsified. I mean, it's our own content and our own data, and that's what we want to be able to mine and drive. And so clearly, there's a lot of chatbots that are coming out that hey, you can build out your own FAQ PDF, and it can just like drive directly off that, so it's not going into the known wild and pulling back data. We think of the same thing just in terms of our own content. And we're doing some unique stuff with brand voice too. So you'll see this consistently in terms of content writing. A brand will have a particular voice. When we go through and work with the brands, we'll identify what's their archetype. So they might be a jester, they might be a captain, they might be a healer. There's a whole bunch of different archetypes. Well, how are you going to get an AI to write in a particular archetype? So we're doing a little project right now. It's pretty fun. That we are literally saying, okay, we're taking a commencement speech delivered to a college university, and we're saying this commencement speech is written by the archetype of a healer. Like, what would they say and how would they say it? And then when we now position the AI, we say, use this document as the voice document, like the actual, what is the brand voice? And so now it has the ability to learn that. It's actually pretty phenomenal. So we're just about to finish out all of those archetypes to be able to train the AI to write in the voice of that brand, which is pretty fun, because right now it's you can ask it a lot. There are tools out there that'll say, point me to a website, and I'll use that as the archetype. Well, some websites, you can't even tell what archetype it is. And a lot of times our clients, current websites that they've hired us, that's not the archetype we want to write it. So, where does it come from, and how do we differentiate? In addition to that, we have a lot of prompt database. So we begin to really train the AI on good examples. So we have swipe files. So you can imagine, here's 3 good headlines that work really great for this particular product. So we have this, and then we say, now write a headline that does this, and here's an example of 3 high converting headlines that we know of. And then it's like training and learning to be able to generate that.
Awesome. So have you seen any use cases for your clients for blockchain or crypto wallets? Do you think that's something that is growing, or you think that was more of like a trend a couple years ago?
I find I am fascinated and love the blockchain and crypto. One of our previous companies that we owned and worked for and sold was a community platform called Social Engine. And I honestly believe that creating communities and leveraging blockchain and crypto, I actually think, okay, here's something coming from a person who's advertising. I actually think it's going to significantly change the advertising world. And there's a quick and easy way to go about it. And so it really comes out of the idea of cooperative thinking. So co-ops, right? If you're a member of REI, that's a buyer's co-op. If you spend X amount on that, either if you are, you get that money back. And what you could do with blockchain and cryptocurrencies in terms of micropayments is, have people, and again, also being based on, are these platforms time well spent, right? Are we spending good time on it? Is the interaction good? And if so, how do we reward those individuals? And I think that particular area, and again, this is all consumer focused, and having the brand understand, maybe there's a benefit to your particular customers to join your particular community that then has some form of token and coin associated with it. Now, believe me, I've been in strategy meetings with a lot of CEOs. I bring this up because one of the things we often talk about to move someone from point A from where they are to where they need to be. Oftentimes, you don't want them to be like from point A to point B. You have to present point Z because they're going to be way uncomfortable out there. And some of these ideas we present are, let's build this in leveraging blockchain and cryptocurrency. And then they'll bring it back a little like that. That idea is like, hey, it's not going to cost you $1 million. Then they're more likely to buy it for 200,000 if you put it out there. And then you plant the seed, and then curiosity starts coming into play, and then it's fun to play, especially with executives who are future thinking. It's fun to send articles to them or check this out. And next thing, a lot of my banter comes in that world of blockchain and cryptocurrency. But I have to tell you, there's not a lot of activity from a brand perspective right now in that area. So I would say, certainly AI has stepped into the hype game that was there for blockchain and crypto. But I still think there's a solid future for it. And then when you combine the two, right? When you bring these two pieces together, it's just like, I honestly believe that with blockchain and AI, we should be able to press a button and our taxes are done. Like, boom, like this, because everything's backed up. It can be confirmed. All of our finances are in a particular area. I mean, there are some really interesting evolutions when those two come together, that kind of spark of creativity. And this is what I'm most excited about AI. It's just the speed of which we can then begin developing it and thinking. But there's a unique combination in that AI. But I honestly think people who are doing AI right now and they're investors, I think they're told, don't bring up blockchain. You're going to scare everybody off. Don't bring up cryptocurrency. You're going to scare you off. But they're interested in it, and they're still playing in the backgrounds with it. So it's been moved into the shadows a little bit, I would say.
Yeah. And, there are many people who do things like using too much AI is not good. Like there's the human factor in it. But yeah, I understand. Maybe you should not use it for making your assignment, maybe. But if AI can expedite something for you, like this is the same concept, just like not to reinvent the wheel. I know, like when I'm using AI, I'm using AI a lot. And this AI boost my creativity, boost my creative ideas. So if this can speed up something, just like as you said, if we are using it for speeding up, for boosting something, this is a good idea to use it. So yeah, I'm honored with you. Okay,
Yeah.
so
You know, what I
yeah,
found based on that, what I found is telling individuals and putting the challenge out to the individuals in our organization is to use AI, not for our jobs, but for yourself. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like and all of a sudden they start going, man, I think I could use this in 20 million different ways. And it begins to show them the power of what you're saying of introducing creativity, helping like with some of the little things. It's like, hey, you want to plan a trip? Use some AI. It's like that. All of a sudden, you're like, this is crazy. So I apologize. I think I
exactly.
interrupted you.
No issues, no problem. In fact, we are just chatting about we're just exchanging our thoughts, so I'm completely okay with that. Okay, so when AI jumped in, like AI was always there, even in when I was in university, like 15 years back. So even at that time, AI was there, but after this GPT is changed. Like this is a new age of AI now. So many people said, okay, AI is getting our jobs. In fact, AI is reducing the jobs. And believe me, like many of the things that we were doing were replaced with AI. Like AI started doing all those things. But after this, like the only thing we have to do is to meet the flow. If AI is there now, we should accept it. So this was a thing that created a lot of more jobs, a lot of more jobs. So even for us in technology field, like yeah, many things AI came there and started working on many things. But again, AI maybe reduced two jobs and generated more 200 jobs. So in this perspective, yeah, new things and changes are obviously good. Okay, so I wanted to ask, what are some hard choices you had to make to get where you are right now?
Yeah, there are the choices were always to not do something. So and some of those choices were detrimental and could be like, hey, listen, we were one of the first organizations that created a podcast platform. We had our own podcast platform called Postsinger. We were running podcasts for the NFL and for NASCAR. We were building all this out. And then we thought, podcasting just really hasn't caught on that well. And this is maybe like 12 years ago. But so we chose just not to pursue it and not to continue in it. So there were some no's in that decision, in that, especially when you're having fun doing it. So there's this interesting combination of, we need revenue within the organization. Here's a cool opportunity. And I can say, and I would think that if we would have stuck with it, things would have worked out just great. Been in maybe a different situation. But those tough choices, when you make them, you have to move on. And it's like one of those things, like you'll come across like certain people that will talk about, oh, I had that idea, or worked on it, but then did you execute on it? Did you follow through with it? And so the idea will always find a home somewhere else if you're not the one particularly owning it. And so there's a great Elizabeth Gilbert, and so I'll bring a funny little reference in here. She's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. She has a new book called Big Magic, and she talks about this in terms of an idea will show up in many places, and it's trying to find a home. And so those hard choices, those decisions around ideations of where to take the future, and then just understanding either we embrace it and move forward with it, or we don't take it. Some of the hardest ones, by the way, and this one gets me every time, is we'll have clients that or prospective clients that will come to us and they just don't have the budget, but man, do I love who they are, and I love the energy, and I just want to work for them for free. And so there's a lot of that comes through, and it's really driven me to start engaging like you guys are doing here, is to start putting out content and references to really help people understand and build their businesses. So
That's really cool. So if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now, where do you expect things to be for Room 214?
yeah, I'd put us at a situation where we are really, really dialed in on the idea of profitable customer acquisition. It's a guarantee that we bring in right now, but with AI, in terms of, and it's especially with the ability to target and create content and leverage, pull particular levers within marketing, I would see us, having a position and a stake in maybe a couple of the companies that are coming through to us, because once we have the ability, our dream is always to have a stake in the game with someone. And so we would love to have stake in the game with it. Like some of these companies I talk about that maybe couldn't afford to bring us on. Well, maybe we do that work and we do it based on knowing that we can grow and scale their business and taking a piece of future revenue. I love that idea of being a participant in the growth of the organization.
That's really exciting. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you or to your website, do you mind sharing it, how somebody could find you or your company?
Sure. On X, also known as Twitter, I'm at James O. Clark. Me personally. Room 214 is at room_214. Our web address is room214.com.
Awesome. Well, James,
Great.
thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation, and we're rooting for you as you're growing and utilizing AI more in the next year or so.
Excellent. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Really
Frank.
appreciate
Thank
the
you.
time today.
Thank you.
Thanks
Likewise.
for your time.
Thanks. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye.